to see or hear the anger. The relationship normally a special one, the highest level of special, said the president, but they weren't lining the streets for the American president, but against him.
I think his policies are awful. I think the way he talks to people, the way he talks about women, the way he talks about disabled people, the policies on climate change, the list of things he does wrong is long.
You're not going to stop Trump, are you?
I think peaceful protest is a beautiful thing.
What do you make of so many British people coming out against your president?
It's really nice that they care that much, about the injustices happening in our country.
The day of protest started with London's newest tourist attraction, flying outside Parliament, the Trump baby balloon, not huge in size, but big in impact.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's an epitome of British humour, really, and I think Trump doesn't get that. But I think it stands for the way that we deal with things we don't like.
Then this peculiarly British day of protest took to the streets, the Women's March starting the demonstrations, armed with song, pots and pans, wit, and anger.
He's the worst thing to happen to the world right now. I have a daughter, I'm a mother, I'm a woman. He is not, we do not deserve him on this world. He's done nothing but wrong.
But is it for British people to say that about him?
She does not like him. It's for anyone to say it, because we are citizens of the world.
We're not telling him necessarily he shouldn't be here. We're protesting some of the policy decisions he's made.
But America is our closest ally, so...
Yeah, and this is not against America, this is against Trump.
Then the main anti-Trump protest of the day, filling the streets of central London.
Well, the American president might not be in London to see and hear these protests, but he's certainly aware of them, saying he wasn't spending more time in the capital because he'd been made to feel unwelcome. But as Donald Trump said, he believes the real British people love the American president.
But those in Trafalgar Square this evening aren't the ones who love him, far from it. But with a welcome from the Queen, the Prime Minister, President Trump might just not mind about the protests. Lucy Manning, BBC News.
Well, Melania Trump's relationship with her husband and her performance in the role of First Lady have been under scrutiny, of course, since her husband was inaugurated. Today we saw her very much in the traditional role of First Lady, with a couple of engagements away from her husband. Let's take a look at this report from Sean Lloyd.
A smile as Melania Trump entered the home of the famous Chelsea pensioners to receive a lesson in poppy making with the help of local school children. The audience was chosen to chime with her Be Best campaign, which champions children's well-being initiatives. There was no speech from the First Lady. She chatted and listened to the experiences of two different generations.
Did she win you two over?
And she came across magic, absolutely magic. But didn't you, John?
Yes, absolutely.
We tried for an invite, didn't we?
Yeah.
No, we did. She was brilliant.
I don't think we'll be invited to the White House yet.
The First Lady's visit to meet the Chelsea pensioners was shrouded in secrecy, and there's been tight security surrounding this event. While her husband has certainly made waves, this was an opportunity for Melania to show a softer side of the partnership.
Whisked away by her entourage, the First Lady had made an impression on the children she'd met, who go to a school a stone's throw away from the US Embassy.
She gave me a hug and she shook my hand.
And what did you feel about that?
I was actually really happy, and I don't even want to wash my hand.
Nana had sat next to Melania Trump and said he was honoured to meet her.
It inspired me. I've learned that I should try my best and be the best I can be. Even in hard times, I should be the best I can be.
The aim of this visit was to show a lighter touch, and while this was a tightly controlled event with no opportunity for media questions, those who met Melania Trump said she was a good sport. Sean Lloyd, BBC News, Chelsea.
And with me still, Dr. Clodagh Harrington from De Montfort University. Clodagh, we were talking about the protest just a few minutes ago, and we said earlier that perhaps they might not affect change, but that doesn't mean that they don't make a difference, does it?
Oh yeah, I think they make a significant difference, certainly. And I think as well, I mean, just if you think of the kind of the where we are technologically these days, there's a lot of people in America now watching what's going on over here with great interest. I mean, some people will be very supportive, others less so, but nonetheless, it sort of matters in that sense. And I think Donald Trump is very mindful of how he is perceived. You know, you do read a lot that he is quite sensitive to how others view him, and ideally, he wouldn't want any protests at all. But, you know, here we are. So I think
and it's a principle of protest, isn't it, as well, as we heard earlier from one of our other guests, you know, this long tradition in the UK of protest where there is an objection against be it a cause or a person.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Britain does protest remarkably well. I just saw a tweet from somebody saying today was akin to a carnival of hilarity. You know, just joy and humour and fun, singing, dancing, all that stuff in there, but still with the really strong messages coming across. And I think that's the kind of perfect combination, really.
Well, let's stay with the protest, Clodagh, for the moment. Thank you very much. But we can go to our correspondent, Chichi Izunda, who's in the Whitehall area. Chichi, I know you've been following various elements of the protests all day. Just bring us up to date with where you are and what you can see.
So I don't know if you can see just over my left shoulder the remnants of the Trump Together protest, which was the larger element of the protest that happened earlier today. It's actually thinning out. I know it doesn't look like it, but there are fewer protests here, and they're streaming up and down Whitehall here. Jeremy Corbyn gave a speech earlier where he said that we are asserting our right to demonstrate and our right to free speech. He also asked people to unite behind London Mayor Sadiq Khan, saying that he shouldn't be condemned for the support that he's given to people wanting to protest. It also comes as the blimp, the famous bright orange blimp of Trump wearing a nappy, made its way down Whitehall and actually was perched upon one of the lions on Trafalgar Square. Tens of thousands of people are thought to have taken part in this march. There have been a few scuffles with pro-Trump supporters along Whitehall here, but police have taken pretty quick and assertive care of that. But yes, the crowds are starting to thin out, and I guess they're starting to go home as well.
And Chichi, what have people said to you about how they feel about this protest? Do they feel they've made a difference today?
Yes, a number of people do feel like the noise that they made, particularly with the Women's March earlier this morning, they were encouraged to bring pots and pans and musical instruments and make as much noise as possible. In fact, their protest march was called Bring the Noise. And they were hoping, even though Trump wouldn't be watching their protest or even see it, that their noise and their message would be heard. They were saying basically they do not want to be silenced, they want to be heard. They want him to understand that they're not happy with some of the policies of the Trump administration, and they want to make their message clear to not just him, but also people that they feel that their Trump message has gone into the normal society and actually infiltrated normal people. They don't want they didn't want any violence. They marched quite quietly along Whitehall towards Trafalgar Square and then ended up in Parliament Square, where they made even more noise at a Trump rally.
Okay, Chichi, thank you very much for that. Chichi Izunda there with the protest. And it's been a day where the objectors to Donald Trump's visit to the UK have made their voices heard, although they've been pretty well removed from the locations where the president has been. He himself, of course, will be delighted with that opportunity to meet the Queen at Windsor Castle. That's the sort of image he will want to see broadcast back in the United States and, of course, on social media. And then, of course, we had that news conference with the Prime Minister earlier. She talked about building a trade deal with the United States. Despite what Donald Trump had said in that Sun newspaper article, Theresa May sounded pretty positive about that. And he talked about the special relationship. He said it couldn't be more special. Let's take a look at some of the main images of the day.
I'm not going to lose any sleep that President Trump doesn't like me.
Lock him up! Lock him up! Lock him up!
It is all of our responsibility to ensure that transatlantic unity endures, for it has been fundamental to the protection and projection of our interests and values for generations.
I'm doing a great job. I am doing a great job, that I can tell you, just in case you haven't noticed.
Switch it on.